in school, before we went to classes, we all stood up and sang "God Save the King." And I don't think they do that anymore. The principal was Mr. Crosswaite. He'd been in the First World War, and he took a bullet in his head, and it made him bald, and his head was shiny there behind the back. The kids called him Baldy. He was a tough teacher, but he was good.
I've looked at old teacher books from the 1910s, 20s, 30s. It was the teacher, the list of their students, the grades they got. The handwriting was amazing.
Yes.
So people could write a lot better than the students as well, or you learned cursive and how to properly do it. Don't even know the terms, but you dip the pen, I guess, into the
nib, into the ink.
And did you study Latin in school?
I did. Latin and French.
Do you remember?
I remember French more than Latin. I know that we were graded by numbers. And when I took Latin and French in grade 12, which was the last year of school for me, or until I went to university. And Latin, I got 50%. French, I got 55%. We had a school where the teacher, the first 4 weeks, you took regular classes and you took examinations. And if you passed the examinations, you could go into shop or sewing or lots of other optional subjects. He didn't stick to the tried and true. He did what he thought was best. And I thought they were good. I enjoyed going to shop, which you wouldn't do normally in a school like of those days.
And what grade or grades was that?
Oh, grade 8 to 12.
Do you remember his name or some of your teachers' names?
His name was Stevens. I called him Mr. Stevens.
And I also, looking through those books, kids would fail.
Yes. Some kids failed year after year after year.
And would they repeat?
Yes.
The whole grade? Okay.
Until they were 12 years old. And then they went and worked on the farm.
Right, because I imagine not everyone went all the way to grade 12.
No. There were a lot of them quit at grade 6. And you had to go to grade 6, or had to go 6 years. Not necessarily. They did not necessarily get to grade 6.
I see, right.
Some of them never got beyond grade 3.
Maybe they just weren't focusing. Yeah, right. They didn't care, yeah. And it was, I guess, boys and girls together. What's maybe 20, is it similar today? 20, 30 students in a class, you would say?
Once in a while, my dad would pick me up at lunchtime in the summertime. But mostly it was just kids. Now you go to a high school and there's nothing but cars. The parking lot is bigger than the parking lot at Safeway. One family was German, and this was shortly after the war ended. And we were suspect to them, but they turned out to be very nice people. And I know that my dad was adding on to our house because we were having a daughter. Our third child, their third child came, my sister, and there was a Swedish Norwegian carpenter, and there was this German carpenter, and the Norwegian carpenter got most of the work. My dad gave it to the German contractor, the addition to the house.
That's nice. Yeah. And you got to know, or your parents got to know them a little bit, and
Oh, they were neighbors. We lived on one side of the street. There was a lane, and they lived on the other side of the street. I know they had a huge garden, and they had a cow. They had a little barn for the cow, but they put the car to graze out in the open country and bring it in every night. And one day the cow ate something bad, and it swelled up. I know the owner got something to pierce it, but it didn't live.
that's too bad.
Yeah.
Hello, please remember that this is part 2. If you'd like to see part 1, it should be available on my channel. Thank you for watching. I have a sense of time before I was born. You know, maybe I got that from media or talking with my parents or grandparents. When you were younger, if you remember, do you have a sense of time before you were born?
Not really. All my relatives lived in England, and I didn't know any other than my father and my mother.
For example, I think my father mentioned something that one of our relatives might have fought in the Boer War.
Well, my father was actually in South Africa, just either at or during the Boer War. He went down there from England in 1898, I think, to, I guess he was looking for better things. But as I recall, he said it was a pretty tough place to live. He carried a gun all the time.
In South Africa, where he was, yeah. Yeah, and do you remember why he went down there? He was on his own looking for opportunities, or?
He didn't say why he went. I guess he was looking for opportunities. And my father was in the war, and he didn't much like to talk about the war. And my mother, I guess she talked to us a lot, but I'd recall very little of it.
And
nothing that stands out.
Why do you think your father didn't talk about the war?
Well, he didn't like it, and he wanted to forget about it.
What differences do you think, on the whole, your generation has with your parents' generation, or is it?
Well, I think we have a better life. Life was, well, you must know, was tough. It got better all the time.
Got better.
Got easier.
Coming to when you were born, growing up, a child in the 1920s, or even getting into your teenage years in the 1930s, what do you think about when you think of the 1920s and 1930s?
But my father had a job with a customs officer, as a customs officer, and it was, well, he thought it was iffy, depending on the government that was in power, but nothing ever happened to change it for him. But it was on his mind, I know that.
And what about society in general? What can you say about how society was then?
Well, I think society, people had more fun. They were more interested in each other than people are today. They had people used to come to our house on Saturday night and they'd sing. My father was the loudest one of all.
That sounds nice. Was it a lot of the same songs, or different? What kind of songs did they sing?
Well, there were songs that were in vogue at that time. This was a Saturday night entertainment. They'd go to other people's houses doing the same thing.
And did your parents have guests over quite a bit?
Not really. There were one of our neighbors down the street. I think they used to come over for Saturday night dinner, and we would go to their house for Saturday night dinner.
What kind of music or songs did you hear? Did people singing, or did they play songs at sports games, or when you're shopping in the store, was there music playing? Do you remember?
Well, I was in the boys' band, and we played at the hockey games sometimes. At home, they were popular songs. I can remember "Sonny Boy" and "You, I Love You Truly." As kids, we thought it was funny. All these people gathered together on the south end of town, and the population really was the north end of town. Going south was, that's where the expansion took place. There were lots of empty lots. There was a big, huge lot that was called the sand pit, and the trucks would go in there for sand, for making concrete, for building homes and businesses, for not only for Yorkton but for quite a large area around. The sand pit, we used to think was pretty neat. We used to slide down it on a piece of cardboard. One day I slid down the slope. One day I slid down the slope, and I went over a broken glass bottle, and
Oh.
Pow. And I went home. My mother almost fainted. I was bleeding badly, and she called the doctor up, and the doctor came over and stitched me up. And the neighbors said they knew exactly how many stitches I had by the yells that came out of our house.
Were you still allowed to play after that?
Oh, sure. We still played in the sand pit. In the winter time, we'd get our sleds, and there were lots of nice slopes that we'd go down. Mind you, you had to climb all the way back up again. It wasn't like a chairlift. It was hard work.
And who did you play with?
Well, the neighborhood kids.
Yeah. What do you remember about them?
Well, I know that one of our neighbors who had the most children, I think they had 7, were Norwegian, and he was a carpenter, and they were nice people. Right next door to them was a German couple that had 2 children, and they lived in a squat hut, and
they lived in a what? Sorry?
a sod hut.
Sod hut.
There was a big field south of town that was called the airfield, and that's where planes landed when they came in. And that's where he set his cow out in the summertime to feed.
And there was a Scottish gentleman that
Yes,
lived there? Yeah.
he played the bagpipes every Saturday night.
Would he wear his, I don't know if you remember, did the man wear his kilt when he did
I
that?
believe he did. Well, I know my father and mother played bridge, and they used to play bridge with other couples, and they taught my brother and I how to play bridge, and we played quite a bit of bridge as kids. Well, almost every night we played what they called ante I over.
And how many people do you think would play? Like,
Well, it depended how many kids were available, and I would say up to 15, and maybe as few as 10.
right. Did you see a lot more kids back then than you did decades later, or you do today?
I think so.